Okay, so as you probably see from my YouTube, I dabble in CrossFit, to say the least. I have done 3 competitions at the high levels of CrossFit. Um, and I spent most of my CrossFit training career being in a fight or flight state. And I decided after like my severe OCD experience in 2023 that like I couldn't continue training the way that I was with such a stress on my body. I was so burnt out. I had gone from like a very long-term extreme level of sympathetic activation to then very burnt out, shut down, hopeless for a while, and like would oscillate between those two. And it was a very scary multiple months before I really like came out of that. And it isn't until like literally the last few weeks where I finally felt, and I'm talking about I was burnt out going into the 2023 season. So this is, a year and a half of before I've actually found like excitement in training and calmness in training again and joy and actually looking forward to it and getting hyped up and getting back into my sleep routines and everything like that a little more regularly. But anywho, I was like a very fight or flight. And I would talk with my mentor about how like it's like, wow, imagine when I'm more regulated and balanced, like how much more am going to be able to get out of my training, right? And prior to making my first big competition, I actually used brain retraining a lot in training that year without knowing it. And I just wanted to give an example because at some point I'd love to work with athletes on nervous system work and as a therapist, because I am reinstating my social work license to become an associate therapist and get supervision as a therapist. But in training, so specifically today, and I did this was after my severe OCD. It was like I was very scared of everything. I was scared of the thoughts in my head. I was scared of feeling any pain in my body. And that had been a long-term thing. Like in the primal trust nervous system course, like she always talks about, I am not okay thoughts. And that has been my entire life. Any weird sensation in my body that I would deem weird, any off feeling, any imperfect movement, anytime I felt like I couldn't keep up the pace that I wanted, it was like the I am not okay thoughts would begin. And it was very, very severe after that severe OCD experience. And I started attaching, like started to wire in my brain that every time my heart rate was really high or felt really high, or my breathing rate was really elevated and rapid, I started to have those I am not okay thoughts. And that would just obviously make the situation work because you're kind of like feeling panic attack symptoms without, like it's normal in training, right? Your heart rate's elevated and you're fine. You're okay. So that's also very cool, something cool, I think, to know, right? Like panic attack symptoms, elevated heart rate, breathing rapidly, feeling a little like light or weak in your body. That's like normal stuff in the context of CrossFit training, right? So it's when you apply certain thoughts, right, to something that it changes the context. So today in training, this used to happen a lot last year. So imagine being already on a shit nervous system because it was just fucking crazy. But imagine being in fight or flight all the time, then going into a training to train CrossFit, which is high intensity, elevated heart rates, really intense. You feel weak, your muscles are burning. And then also while trying to do a workout like that, you're having thoughts, I'm not okay. And then that's making you actually have panic when you don't need to panic in a CrossFit workout, and then stressing your body even more than it's already stressed. And then I would go home, and because I was so in fight or flight or oscillating between fight or flight and dorsal vagal shutdown, I never really got to recover. And my OCD was so bad, it was interrupting my sleep at night. So imagine being on a body like that. And then in training, which is ideally your not escape, but like your feel good endorphins type place, and experiencing those experiences. So today in training, as an example, I started to have that I am not okay thought because I was breathing really heavy. It felt like my heart rate was high, and I was like, the what if started happening. What if I get panicked? What if my body starts to hurt and I can't keep my pace? What if my just body starts to really hurt? And I have this wired in association of like the what ifs, which are very common in OCD, but just anxiety in general, where I started to become very fearful of the pain, which is common, but I'm only making it worse and inducing some of that pain, right? And for me, it's kind of this fear that, like, I'll spiral out of control ultimately, right? Because I have multiple, I would say I am not okay is one of my biggest like wounds and fears that is correlated to my nervous system state and spiraling out of control, right? I think a lot of people have that one, but I think a lot of people have most of those. So anyways, in training today, I was on the rower and I started to feel, I was breathing really heavy and I started to feel a sense of panic arise in me. So from a nervous system perspective, what you want to do, right? Because I've been reinforcing and making the panic worse every time I actually just sit there and try to resist or I judge it. So I let the panic happen. Basically, first, ABC, awareness. I was aware that I was starting to get panicked. Okay, first step is awareness. If you don't recognize that something's happened to you, obviously you can't change or rewire the pattern. Second, you tap into your body and your breath. So in my case, I acknowledged the panic and I said, okay, we're going to feel this panic. And I said that mentally in my mind, right? In my mind, mentally in my mind, obviously in my mind. And I was like, we're just going to feel this anxiety. We're going to let it run through our body and we're going to hold space for it. I did that because I know when I do that, and what did happen was that it just dissipated much quicker, right? And I was able to get back to my workout without having a spiral of thoughts and starting to even upregulate my system even more than I already was naturally from doing high power output intervals, right? And then, so the C of ABC is like co-creation and change, right? So I did that. I held space. I let myself feel my feelings. And then I just popped a quick thought in my head of, all right, you got this. And also stepping back to B, body and breathing, I have certain sensations that start to trigger that sense of panic. And one of them is when I feel like I can't get enough breath in, right? A natural trigger for panic. But in that case, I am breathing. And it's just usually I feel like I need to burp. And this time I took a second. I went, okay, you have that feeling. So what can you do? And I just started breathing a little bit slower. And I just said, it's okay. Well, I did that you feel a little short of breath as well. So, and then, it dissipated a lot quicker than it normally does. And I didn't spiral out of control. And this actually happened another day too. Recently, I get some uterus cramping during intense training. And I did my first workout and had some intense cramping. It's like the fear of the cramping is worse than the actual cramping is pretty brutal. But the fear of it, distracts me from my workout, makes me feel really, really anxious. So I had this cramping and normally I had another workout to do and I'd pack up and I'd go home and I was like, no, we have to change this pattern here and now. If it was really, really brutal, I'll pop like 2 ibuprofens or I'll just not finish my workout. It's very rare, but it can be that bad and go home. So I decided, you know what? It's painful right now, but we're aware of that. We're not going to resist it. We're going to feel the pain. We're going to hold space for this pain. We're going to walk and be with the pain. And we're going to start preparing for the workout. And I said to myself, if the pain continues and it gets worse as you start your workout, you have permission to stop. However, if you start the workout, and it's funny because the pattern is wired in so much that I started the workout and I felt way better. My cramps dissipated. I finished the workout and I was like, waiting, because I'm so used to the pain happening and getting worse. And I said, okay, sit here. If it comes, it comes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I rewired that pattern in my brain. Does that mean the pattern's fully rewired? No, I'm going to have to keep doing that. But you got to start somewhere, right? And usually in those situations, especially with my uterus, I breathe, take deep breaths. And I'm working on just allowing the pain to be there and not judging the pain and not resisting it, because that's where it starts to amplify and get worse, So I wanted to share those examples. And when I had qualified for those couple major competitions, I actually had done so much brain retraining, awareness, ABC work, at that point, because I remember realizing, holy shit, when I'm in training, I'm constantly judging and I'm constantly resisting. And I didn't know this had a name for it at the time, but I remember thinking back wow, I would just be afraid to back squat just because I was like, oh, it's not going to feel good. Meaning it's not going to be a perfect rep. It's not going to feel as explosive as I want it. Imagine being in that brain every day trying to train when you're already expending so much physical energy in training. So nervous system work can really, really, really change an athlete's potential. Without them doing more, they can do the same amount of volume, the same amount of training, and get more out of it simply because they can keep themselves more regulated. And obviously, you could see how this has crazy benefit to athletes competing. And of course, this is how, like, you cannot get access flow state when you're having that much resistance and judgment to what's going on in the present moment in your mind, right? Because it's taking you out of actually being in the present moment, and essentially anxiety is about the future, right? So like, oh God, what if I panic? What if this happens, right? What if that happens? It's taking you out.